All right, so thanks again to everyone who joined us tonight for our sixth part of the Hops Lockdown series. Tonight we're excited to sit down with San Diego Padres left-handed pitcher and former UConn Husky Mason Feole. Mason, thanks for being on with us tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to get going and sit down with you guys. And obviously, we talk a lot off camera, and this will be our first chance to kind of have one of those conversations that we usually do for everyone else to hear. So
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
yeah, looking forward to it. I think everyone will get a lot of great insight. So first, why don't you kind of give us your baseball background, talk a little bit about your playing days in high school, how you got to UConn, and then dealing with the draft process, kind of all that.
Yeah, so I played high school ball at Prout down in Wakefield, Rhode Island, for an awesome coach, Coach Mike LaBarbera. And there I really learned a lot about what it means to go to the field and really work. Um, you kind of had to get coach to nudge a little bit to make the game fun because he believed that every day was an opportunity to get better. In a sense that it was more so like work than like going out and playing a game with your buddies. Um, but for me, that was awesome because up to the point of high school, like I knew a little bit of what getting down and working for something meant. But it was always more of a fun thing to do with friends. And then I got to Prout, and it was more so like, okay, yeah, I have an opportunity every day to work real hard and to become a better ball player. From Prout on, Coach Mike helped me get recruited to a few colleges. I can't thank him enough for helping me through that process, along with my parents. And I found a perfect fit in the University of Connecticut. Um, I walked onto campus and knew right away that the University of Connecticut was going to be the perfect fit for me, the perfect place for me to grow up as a person and as a baseball player, and really kind of hone in on that again, that idea of getting down to work and having a blue collar mentality and just learning how to become a really good player. Um, and I feel like going to UConn really put me in a position to showcase that and to compete for something much bigger than just like an own personal goal or individual statistics. But it was the perfect program that I was able to be lodged in and really help a good ball club win games for 3 years. And now I'm lucky enough to call myself a professional baseball player. Very grateful for the San Diego Padres selecting me in last year's draft. Um, I've had a very uncharacteristic road to and through professional baseball thus far in less than a year. Um, Starting off with an injury, having Tommy John a few days after signing a professional contract is definitely a hurdle in my career. But this year has been really big learning, being around professional guys, understanding professional culture, and kind of sinking my teeth and really my whole life into this is becoming a career, and unfortunately I haven't been able to play yet, but I'm looking forward to getting the ball next year and to going out and competing again like I did at UConn and like I did at Prout.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So let's rewind a little bit and go back to when you played youth baseball. I think, can you speak a little bit to your experience playing on the River Dogs and I think Coventry Little League?
Yes, so Central Coventry Little League, it now is just Coventry, but it was split at the time because we had so many kids. But it was great. I mean, it starts from my dad getting me in the cage in the backyard or just out to have a catch with my dad. And he's the one that kind of drove the love for baseball and the game for me. He coached me up until I was about to be a freshman in high school. Started the River Dogs organization, which was a super competitive, or is still a super competitive win first type of program for youth ball players. But that was great. I still have great friends from those teams, and growing up playing that brand of baseball where it wasn't about getting recruited or who's in the stands or how can I better myself. It was more so let's go out on a weekend and win as many games as we can and really instill a love to win and to compete against other kids and not to go easy on anyone. We wanted to beat everyone. And that, I think, was the biggest thing that I learned from my youth baseball was it's great to go out and have fun with your friends. And I'm not just condoning that. Like, it's having fun from ages, whatever, T-ball to your freshman year in high school. That should be the number one thing, because who knows if you're going to be able to play after Little League or after 13, 14 years old. So that time that you have to develop as a young kid, it should be totally focused on having a great time and just enjoying the game, growing your love for the game, learning the game. But with the River Dogs and through my youth travel experience, I definitely learned not only that, but I also learned how fun it is to compete and how fun it is to win.
Yeah. When did you really start to pitch and know that was something that was going to kind of be your forte?
I'd say around Little League. I could always like swing it a little bit growing up, but I always knew like
Sure
I
you
had
can.
like somewhat of an advantage on the mound. I always just felt comfortable on the mound. Growing up, I wasn't like the most athletic kid outside of baseball.
Mhm.
I'd say like the only time I ever really felt like an athlete or like I was like really in control of my body as a young kid was on a baseball field, whether it was swinging a bat or throwing the baseball. Um, Actually, Coach Mack at UConn likes to make fun of me, basically saying like if I was throwing a football, I'd probably get hit in the mouth. But if I get put on the mound or if I'm in doing something baseball related, I look like an actual athlete. So I guess that has been a part of my life for a while. But yeah, I'd say Little League. We actually went to like states and all that stuff, and um, I had always pitched, so it was fun being on the mound. And I just liked being in control of the game and kind of having the guys rely on you to make pitches and get outs.
When did you start to have your infamous leg kick?
So it's funny. So I used to think that I wasn't kicking my leg up really high, and I used to watch like Dontrell Willis and Andy Pettit, Scott Kazmir, who had these big leg kicks. But it actually happened because I used to love the way Jobber Chamberlain, who was like the flamethrower for the Yankees in 2008 when I was like just really starting to love baseball, he used to point his toe. And I think like being an uncoordinated, unable 12-year-old, 13, 10-year-old kid, I thought I was pointing my toe and my knee was coming straight up, but like I guess I was just kicking my leg up in the air. And it stuck. And I think from a young age, like having to control that with my lower half, I think really gave me a better understanding on, especially growing up, how to use my legs to throw. Um, at least early on, like taking all of like the really deep dive stuff that we talk about for a 12-year-old, 13, 14, even through high school, creating that momentum early on and really having to sink into my back leg and drive off that back leg to not fall over. Kicking my leg up that high, I think really
Yeah,
gave me a good foundation and awareness of body control to kind of be able to use that lower half.
that's great. Very good. And I know that there was a little hurdle that you had to overcome back in high school too. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. So my senior year of high school, about like a month or two before the season, um, I had felt a super sharp pain in my hip flexor at actually a San Diego Padres workout in Philadelphia, like a small like pre-draft thing. Um, didn't think much of it. Thought it might have been just a normal like hip flexor strain. Got it checked out by a specialist and actually found aneurysmal bone cyst. In layman's terms, I guess, tumor in my right pelvis. Um, wasn't really sure what we were going to do. And the doctor I initially went to wasn't very sure which direction we were going to go in terms of how to deal with it because it was such a small area of my pelvis and such a difficult procedure to maybe bone graft it right away or immobilize it and kind of stay off of it for a few years. But they ended up deciding, hey, let's try this like sort of experimental procedure at the time, bone grafting it, injecting me with this substance called Prodents, which kind of rebuilt the bone. And then probably the greatest thing that happened in my career on a physical standpoint, it gave me a great connection. Matt Hopkins, I met him right after that happened. He was my hand-on first responder, I could say, trainer and a physical therapist for that injury. And somehow, some way, and I think like 6 or 8 weeks, we never really talked about it, but like it was like 5 or 6 weeks, I felt like I was back to being good enough to get on a high school baseball field, and somehow didn't miss a single inning of my senior year, after basically being told, hey, look, baseball might not be in the cards for you in college. You might want to think of something else to pursue. But yeah, no, I can talk a lot about that kind of hurdle in my life and my career. But that hurdle also gave me great relationships and connections through you guys, and kind of opened my eyes to a lot of other things. So it was a very trying time, but also it paved the way, and kind of the pieces fell in place for that year in my life. Ended up winning Gatorade Player of the Year, which was my goal before the season, and everything. We got to McCoy, and it was a great senior year of high school, but I had to overcome that small bit of adversity to begin.
Sure. And the reason why I swear I didn't bring that up for the for the plug, but those are very nice words. But it was more to say, how do you think that helped you prepare for? I know it's a much different type of injury, but the fact that you still had to go through something where it was a serious enough issue where you knew that you had to pay attention to it.
Yeah, well, I think any type of injury or any like deal the cards of adversity really does start with that mental mindset and that ability to take adversity or take challenge and really look at it as if you're fueling yourself, or you're loading that ammunition. You know, you're loading the cannon to use your adversity for success and to fuel your competitive nature, I guess you could say. You know, anytime you go through something that kind of makes you think, okay, what's next? What do I do next? My plan just shattered. It really makes you step back and realize that we can't maybe plan things, but our preparation can be that much better day to day. So an injury like a tumor or something that you can't really control physically, sure, that's much different than, say, straining a hamstring or tweaking something because there's a fault in a movement pattern or something that we can get into and deal with at hops or remotely. So I would say one is definitely the mental side of it, but two, meeting you and getting into hops and learning about PRI and learning about how I should be moving and learning about how to properly use my body a little bit better. At least just creating the foundation for that. That would be the second part for me, is that injury, physical injury, definitely gives us an opportunity to learn as much as we possibly can, to not only prevent, but to be stronger and to really perform better afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, do you have anything that you want to jump in with?
Yeah, I think we can. I'd like to jump to, since, I mean, you just being recently removed from college, and a lot of our audience has been high school kids looking to play in college. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about your college experience, from how it shaped you to understand the importance of like the process, and how understanding that it's an everyday thing and the importance of taking everything you do seriously will get you to that next level, and how it helped you become successful.
It really is. It really is. It is day by day. And that was one of the big things that Coach Penders really instilled in me. It's something that I'll always quote and quote him on. It's what's important now. What is important in the moment, in the day that you're in. I could take you back to the first day on the college campus as a freshman, or even on the overnight. I mean, take baseball out of it, take college out of it. You want to get your bearings, right? You don't want to go to a new place or a new university, especially for me, going from the Prout School, which is graduating class of less than 100 kids or whatever it was, to going to this gigantic university, this state school, where I'm walking around and seeing giant pictures of Ray Allen everywhere, you know, this gigantic school. So for me, it was find my bearings, understand what my surroundings are going to look like, and really just try to learn that campus as much as I could, so I'd be comfortable where I am. That's the home turf. That's where we spend most of our time in the fall. So getting adjusted to school and to classes and to just being a normal college kid was like the first priority. We got a very good opportunity of that in first summer with UConn. They put us in a program where we took 2 classes. We went and did weights every day, non-baseball activity, but we were able to kind of sink our teeth and get used to being on a college campus, and also learn how to be teammates and live together. We're in one floor with your freshman class, everyone. And then also part of that, I would say, is surrounding yourself with the teammates or with the guys that you want to be like. Okay, so when you get onto campus, for me, I wanted to be a weekend starter. I knew I wanted to be a weekend starter. So one of the first guys I met was Tim Cate, who was coming off a huge freshman year, freshman All-American, played for Team USA. Those were goals that I wanted. I wanted to play for Team USA. I wanted to be a freshman All-American. So I hung out with Tim. I hated playing Super Smash, but every Friday night I was at Keith Kruger's apartment. Shout out Keith. He just opened a strength and conditioning facility in San Diego, California. I was at Keith Kruger's apartment with all the guys, the upperclassmen, that were in the positions that I wanted to get, that I wanted to get to. And I think that was first and foremost, you need to learn from the guys that have done it before you or that are there. And going to UConn being specific to me, there was guys that had definitely done that before, the Anthony Kays, the Tim Cates, as I mentioned. So yeah, I would say getting your bearings initially, picking your friends in the right way, getting guys that are going to push you and motivate you in and out of the weight room, in the classroom, and finding the people that are above you where you want to be were the big 3 for me.
Yeah.
Sure. And going a couple years before that, so that's when you're stepping on campus, and some advice. What would you say to the kids who are maybe trying to choose their school? I know you obviously did end up choosing UConn, but going through that process with your family, and kind of how you ended up coming onto that school.
Yeah, for me and for all of us, and I try to explain this to guys now, it's like when I was going through that process, I knew nothing. It was like trying to learn on the fly. Obviously, being an only child, my parents have never didn't have the luxury to have maybe an older brother or an older sister that had gone through the recruiting process before. We had Coach LaBarbera, who was great, but the time had definitely changed since he was recruited in, I think, 1998 or 2000 when he was an All-American at URI. So although we had him and his connections, and he was awesome, and I can't thank him enough, he's the reason that I had Coach Mack come to a game in Wakefield. It was really difficult, to understand, okay, I've never talked to really anyone that had been recruited at the level that I was hoping to be recruited. I never knew anyone personally that was sitting down with Division I coaches. So to understand how the recruitment process works and what the rules are, and how can I get in contact with college coaches? What type of things do I need to do on the field? Do my stats matter? Does my size matter? Is there an eye test? Is there going to be a college coach at a game, and is he going to be there for me? Or if I don't hear feedback after the game, is that a bad thing? So all of these questions that I had were kind of answered for me on the fly. And that's why I always try to promote like that I'm open to talk to at Hops or anywhere, or reach out to me with questions on the recruiting process, because I learned so much through that process by not knowing. And I don't think it's the right way to go about it. So basically my process started pretty late as of what kind of today, or at least in 2020, it would be, or 19, I should say, because recruiting has been halted. For me, I was a junior. I had gotten very little interest. Boston College came to one game my sophomore year, but didn't really like me much. I went to like a group visit at BC, and Obviously didn't get an offer or anything like that. Thought my dream was broken. No shot I'm playing Division I baseball. If I'm lucky, an NAIA or a JUCO might want to pick me up. So I start my junior year, and my goal and mindset was, hey, I'm not going to try to get recruited this year, but I'm going to try to be the best possible high school baseball player I can be. I'm going to help us win. I'm going to go out there every single game, and I'm going to try to win for our team. And that was my only mindset. I wasn't thinking about, is Boston College going to be here today? Is Bryant College going to be here today? Is UConn, Northeastern, et cetera? So I took that mindset. I completely neglected anything else. My mom and my my mom and Coach LaBarbera were nice enough to put together this giant recruiting packet before the season had started. And I think we sent it out all across the country to everyone. I think we got like 0 responses. Nowadays it's different, obviously, with social media, but Twitter and Pitching Ninja and Flat Ground wasn't a thing yet. So that wasn't really an option for me. But basically, like I said, my mindset was just to win games, and I was lucky enough. I went on my first visit about halfway through the season. I try to keep it super quiet because I thought that our team's main focus shouldn't be on what school am I going to pick or am I going to go Division I. I think we snuck away one night after school, after practice. We went down to Smithfield and met with Coach Owens at Bryant College, and that was my first college offer. And all the anxiety of, hey, is this going to be a possibility? Like, am I going to get a chance to achieve this goal I set for myself in high school? Kind of goes away. And from there on out, after that first meeting, after that first conversation with a Division I college coach in person, I kind of had a little bit more of an idea of how the college process and recruiting goes. From there, I sat down with a few other guys, a few phone calls, and UConn was actually super late into the mix. So throughout the whole process, Boston College was the first school that had reached out to me, as I said, and that was like my dream school, like ACC, awesome academics, a faith-based university, which was big for me coming from a Catholic school. I think I went to like 2 or 3 visits at Boston College, but UConn was the last school in the gate. Came to see me, and Coach Mack tells a funny story when he's got guys or they ask about how he found me, and he used to joke about it to me, to my face, to like our teammates. He basically came, and it was like an hour and 10-minute game in Wakefield where I played catch with our catcher for 7 innings or whatever it was. It lasted an hour. We won like 2-0. It was like freezing cold rain, and I basically just threw a fastball down the middle of the whole game. So he called me the next night, and he was like, hey, like, that's great. You can pump 83 down the middle and get guys in your conference out, but like, can you move the ball around and like hit different sides of the plate, and do you have spin, whatever? So I was like, all right, coach, like I'll move it around for you the next game. You come out to see me. So he comes out the next week, or my next start, or whatever it was, and I told my catcher before the game, hey, we're gonna work both sides of the plate today. Like, let's do a little bit differently. Let's try to get everyone out in 3 pitches or less. Challenge myself rather than just try to pump that fastball down the middle all day. And I think the second inning, Coach Mack vividly remembers LaBarbera yelling at our catcher Sean Kramer and myself, "What are you doing? Just throw the ball down the middle." and yeah, that's how it went. And Matt called me the next day and invited me up to campus for a visit. Our season had just finished up. I met Coach Penders, and it felt like sitting down with Joe Torre in his office. You know, he's got his Big East championship trophy and the ACC championship, the AAC rather, sorry, ring going on. And I just knew that was the perfect place for me. I had told them that I had another visit at Boston College. We did that visit with Coach Gambino, and leaving, grabbed some dinner in the North End with my parents, and I knew UConn was the fit. Called up Coach Penders and told him I was coming. But again, like, I learned on the fly. I didn't really know much about the the college process or what recruiting really was. And it was a different kind of scenario for me, the way I was recruited pretty late.
Yeah, I think what that speaks to, though, is the fact that the process is never really over, right? Because you see some kids, they get anxious because maybe they're not getting looks or they're not getting that communication as early as they want, and then they start to panic, and then they start to press when they are. Because one of the questions that we got, or a couple of questions that we got, one was, how do you, and you've gone through this process now for college and at the professional level with people being there to watch you pitch, and how do you respond to that? How do you calm your nerves? How do you carry yourself?
Yeah, well, I think a really big thing is understanding that you are good. It's that certain level of confidence that if you make a good pitch or if you have a good outing or a good AB, even I can talk to hitting on this. If you have a good game or if you have a good season and you put in the work and you know that personally your results are good, or you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a good baseball player. I've done everything I could have possibly done to deserve this, then the gratification or the response or the comment from a college coach, your high school coach, your buddies, your teammates, your parents, your mom, your sister, your dog, etc., should not matter. I think a lot of high school guys, including myself initially, were so caught up in the idea that we need to have gratification from someone else to be told that we're a good player, or that we're good enough, or that we're going to be good. And that's something that is going to be eye-opening for all freshmen in college. When you get to college, you're so used to throwing to that catcher in high school, or throwing for that coach in high school, or being around people that are going to constantly give you that gratification. Like you black out a pitch in your bullpen. Yeah, that was a great pitch. And not that that's a bad thing, but we become so accustomed to hearing that when, hey, we do something we're supposed to, and we don't hear Coach McDonald or Coach Penders tell us that's a great job, we step back and we're like, so I'm not that good, or what am I doing wrong? But in reality, when you get to college, the things that are maybe eye-popping or amazing for other people to see, that's your job. My job is to block out corners in my bullpen. My job is to throw my curveball in my pre-start and get it ready for the game. My job is to get the guys out in the 6, 7, 9 innings, hopefully, that I'm going to pitch in. And just because I don't have someone patting me on the back or patting me on the butt telling me great job, doesn't mean I didn't do a good job.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of times high school or young players in general can get that really confused with, am I doing my job? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Or am I expecting praise and gratitude for things that I should be doing regardless?
And I think that's some good advice for guys when they are pitching in that environment, where if somebody's there to watch you pitch, they're there for a reason to watch you pitch, right? So it doesn't mean that you need to up or up your game or press or anything like that, because they're obviously there for a reason anyway. And kind of like the same thing when you do end up getting to a college level or a professional level, you're there for a reason, and to try to make sure that confidence and knowing that fact that you are there or they are there to watch you helps carry you over, to take away some of that anxiety that some of the guys have been talking about when they're throwing in those environments.
Exactly. And that's why I think when you have the opportunity to compete in a high school game, or even if you're a junior college guy getting recruited, the main focus can't be on the individualism of your career when you're competing, when you're performing. It has to be to win. A good college coach and the right college fit, I truly believe, for everybody, is the college recruiter that's going to recruit the winner. The guy on the mound that wants to get outs in big spots, the guy on the mound that wants to take the ball and help his team win, not the guy that's checking the scoreboard to see what their velo's at, or asking the catcher if my curveball is tight today. It's the guy that is out there competing and doesn't notice his surroundings and lets the fuel of his teammates and the competitive juices of beating the other guy in the box or beating the other team fuel him rather than who's in the stands. There's perfect examples of, like, where you are when you are, and that's a great example of like guys who step up their game when people are in the stands. But in reality, you really don't know who's watching and when. I could be at Hops working out in the morning, and who knows who's going to walk through the door, or I could be at East Greenwich High School in the fall or before we get down to Arizona, and who knows, like maybe my coordinator's randomly on a vacation in Rhode Island in February. All right, it's not going to happen, but the point is you never know.
Yep.
So why would I ever allow my mentality or my mindset to be, I'm going to step up when someone's watching, when someone could be watching at any second? And that's honestly something I learned from my father at a really young age, is you never know who's watching, so don't embarrass yourself.
Yeah. I just got a message from someone that said, East Greenwich shout out, love it.
Shout out Coach Downey, right?
Oh yeah, of course it was. Go ahead, John.
I think this is something that you talked about earlier, and this is something that I can attest to. Is you said you went into college saying, I want to be a freshman All-American, I want to pitch for Team USA, and you ended up fulfilling those goals. So I think this is a good topic to touch upon, is the power of goal setting. And because I think this is something that gets lost, is like we tell people you have to have the team aspect, like the team aspect is important, but I think it's important to have individual goals as well, because one of the things I've kind of been on recently is this kick of like, if you develop individuals, you develop a successful team.
100%.
And I'd like you to talk about the power of goal setting and giving yourself things to achieve.
And just speaking off of what you just said, I think the number one attribute of being a successful and good teammate, and all of my teammates at UConn, from Connor Moriarty to Chris Winkle to John Topo, will tell you those three names, for example, because I think those guys knew how to work. The number one attribute, the first thing that you need to do to be a good teammate, is to focus on yourself. And that sounds so backwards, that sounds so wrong, that sounds not right. But if you don't have anything you can personally bring to the table to help the other 26 guys in that clubhouse, then you haven't done your initial job. Your job is to get yourself ready mentally, physically, competitively, to go and compete and to help the other 26 or 34 guys on that roster win games. And that comes before how good of a conversationalist you are with your teammates, or if you're there to pick a guy up, et cetera. Those are all great traits. But the first thing you can do, probably the only real controllable thing you can control other than your attitude, is how much work you've put in. If you've done Coach Benders like to say it this way, if you put the hay in the barn, you're preparing for the spring, you have all winter to stock that barn up and make sure the farm's ready to go. If you've gotten your hands dirty and you've done the stuff that you need to do when no one's watching, and you've become the best player that you possibly can be to the start of that season, or maybe you don't start right away, the middle of the season, whatever it is, if you put your personal self in the best possible position to be the best version of yourself as a player, that's the first and foremost thing you can do as a good teammate. Because no one wants to be a teammate with the guy that didn't put the work in, that didn't come ready, didn't show up ready to perform and to compete with his other 26 guys. You don't want to be the guy on the bus that everyone's questioning whether or not he's going to be ready on game one, or whether he's going to be locked in, ready to go.
Yeah, I think that is so important, is like everyone needs to be rowing in the same direction and pulling their slack in the rope. So if one guy's not, that causes the whole team to not be successful. So no, I think that was really good. Matt, did you want to say something?
No, I think that's the account, and that's a trend that we've kind of been noticing with the different panelists, whether they're at the scouting level, the playing level, or even just in general with strength and conditioning and stuff like that. It's the intent to make yourself and be accountable, right? So that way you can have that attention to detail. And I know you kind of you sent the question about dominating the details as one of the reasons why for hops, that's one of the things that we're looking at is those little things add up. And that's where you end up working on those things as an individual, which can then contribute to the team and make you the best individual that you can be to help the team win. So that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's details are really, in a sense, when we're dominating them, they should become habits. I feel like a great thing to live by is to kind of never really let yourself do anything without dominating details, whether it be schoolwork, whether it be relationships, whether it be the way you get out of the house in the morning outside of a quarantine and present yourself to other people. You want to create those habits in your daily life, where you're becoming routine oriented and you're becoming someone that doesn't go halfway on things. And it truly does come into play. I know throughout college and high school, like my main goal is, hey, I'm going to try to do everything to the best of my ability, because if I can't have the pride or the attitude or the concentration to do this at a high level, how in the world am I going to play baseball at a really high level?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I'm better at baseball. Maybe I can succeed a little bit further in baseball than in this area, whatever it may be. But if I don't put in the same amount of effort that I would when it's time to work towards baseball, now my mindset and my attitude is truly skewed. Because if I can halfway one thing, chances are it's going to lead me to developing habits that, hey, in the weight room, oh, it says 9 reps. I'm going to do 6 today. You know, 6 is good enough. But in reality, you know, that habit has to be built in such a more positive way, in such a more reinforced way. Hey, it says 9 today. That's an odd number. I'm going to do 10.
And this speaks to, it kind of ties into going through a couple of the questions that we've had in terms of your recovery from Tommy John surgery, because there are so many challenges when it comes to that, both physically and mentally. So I was hoping you could get into that a little bit.
100%. And again, like I know I've spoken it a lot in this chat, is just Tommy John rehab, aside from high school and injuries and whatever else I've had to go through in my life, it has definitely been one of the most taxing things mentally, because it completely strips away what you really love to do. And I know John knows this about me, is like I absolutely I love baseball. I love the game of baseball. And I love being on the mound. I love everything about pitching. And especially my favorite part about it is being able to compete and try to win, you know, and to not be able to do that, or not be able to really work on the exact thing that you get to do at first is really tough. You know, there's a lot of question marks, especially when it happens at certain points in your career, your college career, high school career. The question marks come up. Am I going to come back the same? What's next? What does tomorrow have for me? But the biggest thing I learned is again, like being where your feet are, understanding that each day is another day to keep growing and to learn. And even though your arm's in a sling or a cast or a brace, you know, there's a lot of things you can be doing to get ready, you know, to be the pitcher that you want to be when you come back. And that's for any injury, ACL, whatever. You know, day one, you have an opportunity. Okay, I get to move my hand after surgery for the first time. And I know if I move my hand, it sounds minimal, but because of the habits you build up, I get to move my hand. If I move my hand like this, the best I possibly can move my hand like this, the way my PT or my trainer's telling me, okay, that's a win for the day. You know, but if I'm tired, if I didn't get to sleep, or if I didn't take the meds or whatever like that, the proper, and I don't feel good and I can't go in my brace the next day, it hurts to lift my shoulders, that's a failure for the day. And because I didn't do everything outside of my main goals, my main attraction for getting back, you know, I'm not able to do what's important now. So the mindset has to be, what can I do today to feel really good for tomorrow? What can I do the next day to feel really good for the next day? And it's not looking at the checkpoint that you get in 2 weeks to get or 8 weeks to get the brace off. It's not looking 16 months down the road to when I get to lift a weight in my left arm. It's not looking 30 weeks down the road to when I get to pick up a med ball or a weighted ball again. It's not looking 6 months or 7 months down the road to see when I get to throw a baseball for the first time. It truly is, what can I do right now, today, from the second you wake up, eating a good breakfast, to the second you go to sleep, getting a good night's rest. And everything in between is what truly matters, and not looking too far ahead. And also turning your back on the what ifs and the past. It's really a great thing in our world of baseball and the medical world to analyze and understand how we got hurt on a physical standpoint. But the what ifs of what happened if I didn't get hurt, or what happened if I did this differently, I maybe wouldn't have gotten hurt. I think maybe like a week before surgery, dwell on those. But the second you get that incision, or the second you start your rehab plan, your mindset has to change to being optimistic and positive about what today and what the future is gonna hold for you. There's a huge question mark, mentally. It's like, am I gonna get back to being what I want to be, or am I going to be better? Am I going to be worse? Am I going to be out of baseball in a year? Is my arm going to hurt forever?
Yep.
So I think just holding a positive mindset and really worrying about the controllables that you can in present day control, I think, is the most important thing.
No, that's definitely some great advice. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a post-op Tommy John. You can apply that to
Anything.
your normal throwing program, your normal lifting program, and that kind of goes back to like guys getting their stuff done when they come in to the facility, or when they just need to work on catch play, or they just need to work on their breathing, or they just need to work on their pre-work, or if that day they're working on just doing something with John in a flat ground, like that specific day, you can tie in to exactly what you're going through with your Tommy John rehab, where you need to just be focused on what you're doing that day and pretty much get it done. And like just get your stuff done without
Totally.
swear words.
Totally.
But that's a huge, so hearing that come from you, who's going through that rehab at the professional level, hopefully resonates with a lot of the younger guys, that we're not just saying to do stuff for the sake of doing stuff, but everything has a purpose, and being present in that and doing it is huge.
Exactly. And I think goal setting is great, and understanding where you want to be and what you want to achieve is awesome. Like John talks about, that's a great thing. But I think John's understanding and my understanding, because we talked about it, is when you write your goal down, or when you set out what you want to do, say, okay, I want to be a better pitcher than I was beforehand, after this Tommy John. I've written that down and I've put that away. And if I become too fixated on the end goal or the end result, I lose what the focus should be during the process. The process should always outweigh what the goal is in terms of how much we think about it. If we set a goal like, I want to be an All-American, or I want to be a weekend starter, or whatever it is, I want to hit third for my college team, my high school team this year. We're so fixated on only that goal, and we don't understand what habits and what things we need to do throughout the process to reach that goal. We're focused on the wrong thing. And like you said, just being in that moment and understanding what I need to do today, and understanding my process of how to get there, is so important. And that's why I say, like, you have to be around the people that are where you want to be. For John, like, he should talk to you all the time because he wants to, have his own brand, his own business. For me, like, I want to pitch in the big leagues. So heck, I should, even if I'm not allowed to, I should be around big leaguers, or even watch them from afar, or have friends that I can text or whatever that are playing big league ball, or guys that are in higher levels in the minor leagues that I am in. You have to bug them, honestly, like learn as much as you can about the people that are where you want to be. And I think that if you have nowhere to start for what your process of reaching your goal is, I think just watching by example is a great kind of foundation for what that process should resultly look like.
So this kind of ties into one thing that I've been trying to ask some of our guests is, could you speak to your sleep and nutrition and how that's evolved over the last several years?
Big time. I think high school, it was like stay up as late as I can until I get tired and have to go to sleep, and then wake up as early as I can to get to high school, and it's like you don't really realize how much that affects you. And it might not, to be honest, it might not affect that 14-year-old, 16-year-old kid that's going to eat a Snickers bar for breakfast anyway. Like at that time in your life, you might not noticeably see it. But I think it was my sophomore year of college where I really started to notice the benefits of sleep. I really started to notice the benefits of nutrition my freshman year of college. And for me, it didn't mean eat strict, but it meant eat everything in sight, in a sense. I know like health coaches and someone that is more geared towards nutrition will tell you maybe a little different than how I did it, but eat everything in sight and put on as much mass and weight as I possibly can, because I was a twig, and that was my goal. And so I learned how important my nutrition and how important my weight was to pitch through a 100-inning, hopefully, college season, but it really was sophomore year where I learned how important sleep and overall wellness of just getting rest and understanding like nutritional intake and stuff like that was. And I'd say that was during the season, my sophomore year. It's college. You're up with your buddies till 3 a.m. You're hanging out, playing video games, or hanging out in the apartment. It's what you do, I guess, but it shouldn't be. So you don't really understand the value of sleep. But then you get on the road and you travel as much as we did at UConn, and you got a pitch on Saturday night, or you end up having a pitch on Friday night, not knowing when you get off that plane on Thursday night, if you don't get a good night's sleep, I mean, you're going to wake up and you're noticeably going to not feel that great. So what I ended up doing around December of last year, I started wearing a Whoop band. Basically what it is it tracks your heart rate and basically gives you a sleep score nightly. It kind of tracks the performance of your sleep, how well you slept. And it's really a great tool for being accountable and being honest with yourself on what kind of sleep you're getting. I mean, you can do it with the Apple Watch. You can probably even get one of these apps on your phone for tracking your sleep based on probably not as in-depth as the heart rate scanners on the Whoop and the Apple Watch will give you. But I think that's a great starting point because when the way Whoop works, it kind of gives you like a sleep score and tells you what your day strain was for the day and what your body's apt to take. And every day you try to get it above 80%, 90%. But the moral of it is, if you don't have the data on something, if you don't understand why my 4 hours of sleep made me give up 9 runs on a Friday night or whatever, how that affected me. But then the night I slept 9 hours, I threw a shutout or whatever it may be, hypothetically. If you don't have that data, it's really tough to know. But yeah, I think sleep is just the most underratedly most important thing. Because if you're not prepared for your body to kind of put on that load or to compete, you're really just starting off the day on a really bad note. And I think the other neglected thing would be the importance of eating a solid breakfast every day. I know it sounds so minimal, but I really like going, and what really helped me actually gain weight and put on good mass was the Dr. Heenan. I think it's the 1,000 calories by 9 a.m. rule. I mean, if you don't have anything in your system, your body's going to look for something else to burn that energy and you're going to be dead.
And then you're
So
chasing the calories throughout the rest of the day too.
Exactly. So you're not gaining any weight. Even if you're still eating 4,000, 3,000 calories and you're putting yourself above that caloric, whatever it's called. I'm not a nutritionist, so can't speak exactly the words, but if your body has nothing new to burn, it's going to burn what you already had. And then you're just kind of fighting fire with fire at that point. Which also, like, going back on the idea of being accountable and developing good habits, like getting something in your system before you work out, even if it's small or something like that. If you have like an early morning type deal is just so important.
The main takeaway too from this though is that there really is no excuse. There's no
100%.
excuse not to get this stuff done if you want to play at the highest level that you could possibly play at. And again, we're not, or in general, hearing it from you again, we're not blowing smoke. And Nick, yesterday, we're not blowing smoke. Like, the ability to do this stuff and track your sleep and track your calories is out there with technology, with your phone. So it's not like you're out there guessing or it's some grueling process. Like, the opportunity to do this stuff at this time, like in terms of like being 2020, like it's there. Like, it's very easy to get it done. So if you really are honest with yourself and you say, okay, I do want to play at the highest level I could possibly play at, then this is the stuff that you need to do to get there.
It is. It really is. And it's not to say on like, okay, you have to go spend whatever and get an Apple Watch or Whoop Band. But there are ways to be able to do so without having to wear that or whatever. You know, if you're getting your sleep, if you're sleeping 8 hours or whatever it is. And I know Nick's much more advanced than I am. Like, I feel like I'm a minimalist compared to what he's able to do. And that's something that I know that I need to create better habits of and become better at myself. You know, you're so right on just the importance of it. And again, like, I think that being able to do the things that might not seem super glorifying, like, okay, it's really cool to look really good when you're throwing your plyos or when you're in the weight room with right form, when the eyes are on you. But the things that other people don't really know are the things that you do when no one's watching. Again, I quote Penders all the time, but like, you can't fool the man in the mirror. Only you know if you've done what you need to do to be successful. And when it comes down to the moment to be successful and you're not, you only have one person to blame, and that's yourself. But yeah, the things that we can control that are outside of the direct realm of baseball or weight training or strength training are so important. And I really do think they get overlooked, especially by younger guys. They want to stay up till 2 a.m. and play Fortnite and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah. John, I think that we want to open up, at least at this point, so people can start to think or start to send in some questions.
Yeah.
And John, did you want to hop in with anything?
No, I think we hit upon a lot of good stuff. I think now it's a good time to kind of let people ask some questions based on everything we talked about.
Sure. So I also wanted to tell a really quick story, because I think that this speaks to Mason as an individual, never mind Mason as a baseball player, because somebody sent a message in the direct message thanking him for doing this. So over at the facility one day, there was a pitcher throwing who was kind of slipping and sliding on the mound. They were kind of all over the place, and looked down and there were some holes in this player's sneakers, and the sole of the shoe was pretty worn away. So Mason reached out to me and made sure that this individual got a pair of Mason's newer shoes, so that way he had the ability to, because I don't even think they were the right size. I think that they were actually the wrong size. So Mason left.
Yeah, Carlos was wearing like size 10s and he's a 13. I'm like, dude, how are you going to throw a pen in
so
10s?
Mason, speaking, we wanted to speak. That's fine. I mean, Carlos put it out there anyway, but I definitely want, Mason, he said that he wanted to thank Mason for doing that, and he never really got a chance to, because not many people would have done something like that for him. So
But
hopefully,
I think, I mean, I'm sorry for blowing your cover, Carlos, but like I gave him the shoes, and I've never seen someone. I watch him through like the hops account, and I know I'm not home to see it, but like someone that puts in the work and develops good habits and doesn't take anything for granted and goes into hops, and I see it with my own eyes, and just his eagerness to learn and grow and to really become the best possible player he can be for himself, and just that drive and eagerness to be accountable and have a great attitude and really learn and be a sponge for you and John. um, it, I just, it's one thing to help someone out, and people have helped me out. But when someone helps you out and you, in a sense, repay them, or not that I need to be repaid, but it makes me feel really great to know that now I get to know this person, and he's coming in and just really just running through walls for his own personal career,
yeah,
and not just taking life for granted in a way, you know?
yeah, and he's someone who, because you, not just for that reason, but you helped to allow him to continue to work and thrive and get better. And then he went to, got his velo up to in the high 80s, corrected a lot of stuff, was one of the hardest workers in the off season. So it was just a cool thing that we noticed, that you did. So it looked like while we were telling that story that there were some questions that came through. John, you want to grab one?
Yeah, we'll go just based on the order they came in. So this one asks, what age were you when you had your biggest velo jump?
Okay, now I hear it. Now I see it. Sorry, I'm trying to read along with the questions. I would probably say from sophomore to junior year. I was like low eights my sophomore year, like maybe touching 80 early on. End of the summer, I was like touching 85. And then my junior year, I was trying to be consistently in the mid to high eights. Um, and I think for me, like, that was a bigger jump than going from high eights to low 90s. I think going from 150 pounds to 170 pounds and just growing up in a year from sophomore to junior year was a bigger jump substantially. Like, okay, now it feels like a loaded gun. You know, going from that was much different than, okay, going from 89, 88 to my freshman fall being like low nines, touching 93. It just felt like a smaller jump, and I guess I never really had like a one day I'm throwing 72 and now I'm throwing 83. It was much more of a gradual incline of velocity. I'd say like through long toss. Not that I really had a good grasp of what long toss was, but I was lucky enough to have guys like Brad Hertzler help me kind of understand what a throwing program was and what I needed to do day to day to keep growing as a young, like a youth pitcher. I'd say like early high school for most kids, you're still a youth pitcher. I know now there's some freaks out there that are 90 miles an hour their freshman year, but for me, it was super gradual.
All right, so this next one was for younger players. Is there any particular workout or exercise or drill that you felt gave you an extra edge?
Mental side of things, 100%. I think you could be super physically talented and super good at the game of baseball, but if you don't understand the mental game, if you don't understand what it means to compete and what it means to compete with yourself and push yourself, I think it's really hard to go anywhere. So I think there's not a particular workout or exercise for me, but it was definitely my mentality and my attitude and ability. Brad Hertzer, hold on, I'll grab it. My junior year of high school gave me this book. I don't know if is it coming in backwards?
No, it's fine.
No.
Yeah, it's beat up like heck. I used to like throw it in my baseball bag. But the mental ABCs of pitching, I love this thing for youth pitchers, for high school guys. Even now or through college, I would go to it. But basically, it's by chapter, kind of like the most important mental side of pitching. There's one on just the general baseball. But honestly, before high school starts, even like freshman year before college starts, I just skip to a page and I just read like there's so much value in this book and obviously some other books. But that for me, learning the mental game was probably the most important thing.
I think I can speak to the exercise question just for youth players. Kind of ties back into what can we do to generate the most strength or to generate the most force in our lower half. All right, so making sure that we're doing the basic movement patterns, but also working on lunging, deadlifting, and while also making sure you keep up with doing those the right way. Right. But as far as like you too, I think even at the college level, when you really made a jump, even gaining weight, that was something that you were focusing on. I mean, that's a little bit obviously more advanced than the youth levels, but in college, when you really started to like hone in on lunging and deadlifting and lifting properly for the most part, then that's where you saw a big gain in strength too.
Yeah, 100%. And that, not my answer, not to neglect the physical side. But for me, that gave me the edge, as well as stuff we were able to do.
Yep. I think the next question was pretty similar.
Yep.
Do you want me to? Should I go to it still?
No, I mean
I like your mustache, Sean. Someone asked that. I don't know why. But I do like I like the facial hair. I think the Hops trio right now have it going on. That obviously is like the godfather of beards, where John and I are just trying to
We're working on it.
to get there. So whoever wanted to be a little jokester, I'll bring some humor in with that one.
Sure. So there's a question about transitioning from New England to Arizona. How has that been?
It's warm. It's 80 degrees out right now and beautiful.
Hey, you're complaining.
but being on a serious note, it was definitely tough. Anytime you have to move across country, especially for me, like kind of by myself, I came out here alone when I signed. It was a brand new thing for me. You know, I had mom and dad's hand to hold when I walked on the college campus for the first day, and I got my hug and kiss goodbye. But I had to do that at the Providence airport, you know, saying bye to mom and dad before you get on the plane to go across country and sign your first big boy contract. And then I moved myself into an apartment, had their help post-surgery. So in a life perspective, it was a crazy transition for me, and something that I will always take with me at a level of confidence that I'm an adult in a way now. I'm a kid at heart, but I'm an adult when it comes to kind of establishing myself in a new place and meeting new people in an organization. But it's an experience that I always wanted. I always dreamed of coming across country. And I joked around with my family and stuff. Oh, I want to live in California one day or whatever. Maybe it looks like that could be a possible situation for me in the next coming years. And I know my family back home is going to be laughing about that, but
well, that's why you're growing your hair out again, right?
Yeah, right. I have to fit in. But yeah, it was an awesome transition. It was a definitely big step in my life. But it's been awesome. I love it out here, and spring training was good until it got shut down. But it's a nice place to live. Still love New England though.
Yeah, of course. John, you want to grab the next one?
Yeah, this one says, "What's your go-to pregame meal?"
I'm a big sushi guy the night before. Pregame meal, again, just like whatever I can get for a good breakfast. And I don't know, I'm a pretty light eater before I get on the mound on like a game day. In college, at least I was. I'd make sure I have a really good meal for breakfast.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you're pitching Friday night, like go back to last year and you were pitching Friday night, what did you eat during that day?
Yeah, so Friday night, we'd get up at like 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, go grab a good team breakfast, maybe like a nice omelet or some boiled eggs with some good oatmeal, something hearty that I could probably digest throughout the day, just hanging around. We'd kind of just relax, try to stay off the feet as much as I can, but walk around for lunch. Honestly, probably just grab something small like a salad, some grilled chicken, sometimes sushi before I got out there.
Have you ever had bad sushi? You ever had bad sushi and gone out to play?
No, never had bad sushi and gone out to play, but I had some sushi in weird places in college. Like the night before my sophomore year, I felt like I had to have it. I'm not superstitious superstitious at all. Like I don't believe in it. Like I'll step on the line. I'll talk about the no-hitter. I'll say the game's moving too slow or is rolling fast. Like I don't believe in superstition at all, but I do believe in routine. And at the time I thought that sushi was the best meal for me to eat the night before because it was a good balance of protein and carbs. I don't know. In my head, it made sense. But yeah, normally it was a big breakfast, lighter lunch, eat as much as I could after the game.
Sure. If you say so.
Maybe
No,
that's not
good.
the right way
Whatever
to go,
works
but
for
that's
you.
how I did it.
Let's see if any more come in.
I'm looking at a ton.
We've already gone through all those.
True.
And I think just to kind of summarize too, Mace, that you could maybe, without going into it too much again, what is something that if you needed to give a younger kid one little piece of advice, one high school kid, one little piece of advice, and then one college kid piece of advice, what would that be?
So for the young kid, like we're talking like little league age, like youth guy, I would say just learn a lot about the game. Have fun with it. Enjoy playing in the backyard with your buddies. Watch MLB Network, play MLB The Show, collect baseball cards. Like learn about the history of the game and see if you love it. You know, from a young age, you're going to be able to understand that you have a connection to this game one way or another. And from there, for a high school kid, learn that sacrifices are very important. There's going to be a lot of kids that don't have the same goals or the same passions as you, and they might be able to do things a lot differently than you can. If your passion is being an athlete and playing baseball, your life and your day to day is going to look a lot different than someone that maybe just wants to go to college and get a good job in something else afterwards. And that's not a bad thing, but to be an athlete, it takes a lot of commitment and sacrifice and putting yourself in good situations. And then for the college guy, those 4 years or 3 years or 2 years or whatever, or 5 years, or I know some guys in their sixth year, they fly by, and you don't want to end your college career basically looking back saying, man, I wish I turned that stone over, or man, I wish that 6 a.m. lift on Friday morning that I didn't want to go to because my buddies were going out to the bar, and I didn't give my effort because we went out on Thursday night, whatever. You don't want to look back on your 3 or 4 years or whatever, how long you're in college saying, I wish I did this differently. I wish I didn't put off today what I could have been doing and thought I could do it tomorrow, So you don't want to leave college with any regret that you didn't empty the tank to have the best possible college career that you could have. Because if you did, most likely, and you put in the work, you're going to put yourself in a good position to have a chance to play professional baseball or to be involved in baseball at some point, one way or another.
We got some more questions. Whenever we go into a little story, you end up with some more questions. Maybe we can go through these pretty quick just because it is getting a little bit late. But do you ice?
In high school, I ice, but I do not ice anymore. I like using the Mark Pro or getting in the weight room or Matt hates.
Doing more of an active recovery.
Yeah, more of an active recovery. Just moving around, getting the blood flow going, making sure I'm staying on top of my Jagger bands or my tubing stuff. So I do not ice.
And the Mark Pro is, for those that don't know, is like a little electrical system that just kind of pulses the muscles to make sure that they're contracting and relaxing so they can just continue with blood flow and help.
I would say Normatec too. I like using Normatec or any sort of like manual massage or I used that buffer that we had at Hops for a while.
I'm going to jump to a kind of a serious question. Sunflower seeds or gum?
Neither on a start day. Sunflower seeds in the dugout. Definitely not gum.
Plain or flavored sunflower seeds?
I don't like the original. I'm not a big fan of the original. I like buffalo style ranch, or there actually used to be this really good really good barbecue flavor they don't make anymore. My dad knows what I'm talking about.
Big Hen asked, favorite Prout baseball memory?
Playing at McCoy, by far. Or playing at McCoy was one of the coolest experiences ever. I still talk about it with a few of my teammates. Just getting the opportunity to compete there in a state championship. Unfortunately, we didn't come out with the win, but going to Prout, we've definitely set a standard that's what you're trying to get to, is playing those games in McCoy. So yeah.
If you were going to give some advice to a little league age player, what would you? Is there anything specific that you can think of that you did in the yard that maybe helped make you a better baseball player?
I used to compete with my dad just playing catch.
Who won?
Him, because I used to have to run into the woods to get the ball after I threw it over his head. But yeah, no, it was just like messing around. It was just stuff like messing around in the front yard with my dad, just playing catch with him and like trying to break his glove every time or whatever, just enjoying the little moments of just being a kid and growing up and getting an opportunity to play baseball, not worry about anything else. You're with your buddies and your friends. You make my best friend was on my T-ball team. Robert Jean is my basically brother. And it's just, that's what it's about. Little League Baseball is about having fun with your friends. Think about it like you're in the backyard, and just enjoy baseball, man, and just have fun, because it really is the game of the 12-year-old. And when you can go in your backyard and play some wiffle ball, or when you're 13 or 11 years old, and you can just hit the ball around with your buddies and play rundown wall ball and just have fun. Like, that's the number one thing, is just, as a youth player, just have fun.
Enjoying the game at 11, 12 years old, even 13, and sometimes when you get to be right on that 14, enjoy playing.
Exactly.
And it is important, but it's not life or death to the point where you have to be putting so much pressure on yourself that you're not having fun and you're not.
Exactly.
Here, I actually was busting your chops about this during the draft process, but what do you think your dad's reaction would have been if the Red Sox drafted you?
He would have wore a Yukon hat and would have wore it proud. I think he would have gotten like a shirt at Elmwood Screen Press with just like the MLB logo and our last name on the back, rather than wearing the Red Sox.
Like a neutral, right? Like a neutral.
Yeah,
neutral.
I saw a picture of him in the Padres brown and gold, and I almost lost it. Like, it's weird for me growing up, because he just like brainwashed me to be such a big Yankee fan growing up, and like I know how much he loves his Yankees, so it's weird seeing him wear any other uni or any other like gear for a team. But no, to be honest, like he would have put a Red Sox hat on. He wants to say he's big and tough, and
he's lucky that he didn't. So now he doesn't have to, right?
He would have put a Red Sox hat on real fast.
John, you think we're all set?
Good to ask this last one. Ever think of getting a haircut once this quarantine is over?
Can I expose him?
Sure, why not?
Shout out Ben Sears for that question. U of H commit. No, I'm growing this out and this out until this quarantine's over.
And you're going to be playing in California next year, right?
I hope so, yes. But yeah, no, Ben, I'm not going to get a haircut, even though you really want me to. It's not happening.
But one thing for the attendees for the meeting, Mason is very genuine and honest when he says that he's very approachable with any sort of questions about the game, the preparation, training, the college process, any of that stuff. Like, he is very approachable. Don't ever hesitate to reach out. And this was a good outlet for him. So that way you can put a face to a name and know that he's meaning that when he says that if anybody has any questions in regards to that stuff, then reach out to him on social media, whatever. He'll be around the facility too at some point, so he's always approachable.
Yeah, 100%. My DMs on all of my socials are open. And if you go through Matt, you can grab my phone number and shoot me a text. But I am 100% available for anyone that wants to talk more about the recruitment process, or maybe the draft process, or just your baseball process in general. I'm always here to talk, and I'll be in Rhode Island sooner than later, I hope. And then at Hops in the off season to answer even any more questions. Just come right up and we'll chat. I'm not that scary.
All right. I think
All set, John?
Yeah, I think we'll call it a night. So
All
yeah,
right.
no, thank you, Mason. That was awesome. And thanks again for everyone for joining. Hopefully we'll see everyone as we wrap up these next 2 nights. And then stay tuned for some more guests next week. All right. Thanks again, Mason.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.